evening, YouTube. This is Tyler Metalhead Weatherman. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the holidays so far. Getting into a very action-packed weekend, especially on the sports end. So I know there's a lot of outdoor events that we're going to be going to. So we're going to be doing our weekend forecast, of course. There is a few areas of interest right now. We have a marginal risk for severe weather this weekend on a Saturday, and then we also have an area where there could even be a little bit of snow, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But we'll start out with the marginal risk here that's going on tonight and then into tomorrow. So the main area of interest is going to be on the Texas Gulf Coast here. Areas just to the south of Houston. Corpus Christi is involved as well. Marginal risk is mainly for wind, but there is a slight chance you could get a spin up tornado. Don't expect anything insane, but even so, keep an eye out. There aren't any active watches and warnings for this right now. But one thing I do want to note with today and tomorrow, so there is quite a. I did look at the excessive rainfall outlook, which we will talk about in a moment. But there's a considerable threat for some flooding. Hence, there is a flood watch in effect actually around the area of Houston in particular. A lot of storms will be going over the same areas over and over again, and as a result, that will increase the flooding threat. Because these are a little stronger than your garden variety thunderstorms. No, by no means are they big supercells, but there will be plenty of rainfall to go around, especially as these storms will be fueled by the Gulf of Mexico. We look to tomorrow. It's a pretty similar look, just a little bit further to the east. Mainly going to be focused on the Gulf Coast states yet again. Looking at areas like New Orleans, Mobile, and maybe as far north inland as Dothan here. But the main threat again is going to be wind and maybe an isolated tornado possible. So the flood threat's going to be a little bit lessened tomorrow, but still very much prevalent. So let's go back to. So let's go back here and actually take a look at what our hazards look like. If this will load, here we go. All right, so this is what we have going on right now. We have a flood watch issued right around Houston, and then over here I've been talking about this area in the last few videos, but the snow actually didn't end up falling on the schedule that we were all thinking it would. Really the last chance for potential snow is going to be over here. There's winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in effect around this area. It's not going to be a lot of snow that falls. We'll get to that towards the end of the video. But mainly we're going to cover the flood threat first and just kind of take a look at what the radar could look like. Because beyond that, it's going to be relatively quiet this weekend. We might start to see hints of that next storm system moving in around the north and east. But beyond that, not a lot going on. But here's the big topic right now. There is a moderate risk of excessive rainfall right around the Houston area, as we've been talking about, hence the flood watch being issued. But this slight risk for flooding extends almost towards Dallas, I would say. I'm going to try to zoom in on this if I can. All right. No, it's not quite Dallas. But we do have San Antonio and that slight risk, Austin, College Station, and Killeen. Some pretty big cities involved there, so just be on the lookout for the potential for some flash flooding. And that's really the most significant thing that we have going here. We look through tomorrow, our flood threat's going to be a little bit lessened. Main areas of concern being Houston once again. We have now New Orleans and Baton Rouge involved. And anywhere towards the Mississippi River going through almost the entire state of Louisiana here. Definitely more towards the center of the state. We have Alexandria involved in that as well. And then we can look towards Beaumont and Lufkin, Texas, Tyler, Texas, Longview for potential flooding as well. But that's really the most significant concern as of right now as far as the warm side of this system. Go ahead and take a look at the temperatures here. Not a lot of real cold, not a lot of cold air with this system actually. And I think that's one thing that's inhibited the snow is just the fact that this hasn't really been able to draw in a lot of cold air. It's kind of remained in that positive tilt. At times, maybe trying to go neutral, but not a whole lot going here. Like it broke off a piece of the jet stream, but just didn't have the support it needed to do much more, like we were originally thinking. I think as we get into the late night hours, the potential for snow increases, and the snow's moving in an odd direction. Actually, it's going to be coming in from this direction. It's going to be moving northwest actually. So it's going to kind of be running back into that cold air, but there's also going to be dry air involved, and that's going to limit it as well. But still, there's potential for accumulation in areas that will normally not see snow or really anything during this time of year. So it's still an interesting anomaly nonetheless. But over the course of tomorrow, it's going to be a little cooler around the northeast, but not frigid. It's a little bit closer to average, maybe just a little above for some of us. But we keep this moving here. And once we get later into the day, southeast actually looks like it's going to get maybe just a tad bit above average, but nothing to really be concerned with here. The toastiest spot, of course, will be Florida. But beyond that, just moving this along, and we get in towards Sunday morning. Weather's going to be active around the southeast by this point. Weak cold front comes through. Chance of a few showers and thunderstorms. Maybe towards South Georgia, there could be potential for a marginal risk, but nothing beyond that. And we're freezing. Okay, here we go. But beyond that, though, it looks like everybody's going to be relatively warm. There's some cold air starting to creep back into the northwest by Sunday, and this will become a bigger factor as the next storm system begins to roll in. Dang, we just keep on for the worst time. Come on. Alright, it looks like we're back up and running here. I don't know what was going on with my computer, but seems like we're okay now. Still a little slow, but overall, though, around Monday is when we start to see that next pool of cold air coming in. This will start to hit the middle of the country, I'd say, by early Monday morning. You're going to have some surprising temperatures. For the most part, I think they'll be about average for these areas. But this is going to be the main area that we'll be looking at throughout the week, as we're anticipating an increased severe weather threat around this region as a warm sector will start to develop here. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the radar could look like, and then we'll start looking at some rainfall and snowfall totals. Try to close these out here, see if I can't maybe help speed this process up a little bit. Seems like it actually worked a little bit too. Okay, so here is our reflectivity, and here's our here's our system that's expected to bring some snow towards East New Mexico and western parts of Texas here. A little bit of rain mixed in there, which may hamper some of the totals with snowfall. But over here is where we're going to be most concerned with. We're a little bit behind on this model, actually, I think, because this model came out at about 2 o'clock. The next update for the NAM isn't going to be probably for another 2 hours at the time of shooting this video. But here comes the snow. It's starting to get a little heavier as we close into the later hours of the evening here. Snow will look like at times it may get a little heavy, but this is when we start to also look at our potential for not only severe weather, but most of the flooding threat is going to happen overnight actually. You see this little flow of moisture coming in from the southeast, or southwest, moving north, maybe northeast. And these storms will start training over this region one after the other. And then we begin to develop this rain shield, and this is going to end up moving through the Gulf Coast states, leading into a slight warm sector develops here. So there's some potential for severe weather, but the other ingredients just really aren't abundant enough to keep that rolling. So they get a huge shield of moisture that develops here Saturday, and then this will just transgress on to the east Sunday. And then this storm system will work its way off to the north. Maybe some backside snow for a few areas. Save Michigan, maybe the Great Lakes once more, but I expect totals as of right now to be pretty light. Lake effect machine looks like it's closed for right now, which is great news because I know a lot of areas got whomped last week. Then we can expect maybe a little bit more snow around northern Maine, but beyond that, half of the state's going to be more so rain than anything else. So let's go ahead and take a look at the potential moisture that we'll be dealing with, or quantitative precipitation, I should say. So we'll just move this all the way up to the end here. So what we got going here is we're going to be looking at areas. We're looking at a lot of the areas of interest here having about maybe 2 to 3 inches worth of rainfall, especially around Houston. That's where our highest totals are going to be. Still going to be a few pockets where we could get even more than that, where it's about 3, maybe even 4 inches are possible. But beyond that, we're mainly looking at maybe 1 to 2 inches around most areas. It's going to be a nice swath of heavy rain, though. A lot of areas could be expecting at least half an inch, maybe an inch, a little bit more than that. But as we go further and further north, those totals are going to start to drop off as the storm becomes more progressive and moves a little bit faster. And with that, now we will look at the snowfall totals last. And like I said, this week's not really looking like too big of a snow threat going on. But a few areas around here we could see, and actually I think this is still a bit bullish, but there's some areas where we could see about at least 2 to 3 inches. Some areas indicated on here have 6 to 8 inches, maybe even a 12-inch spot right here. I don't really buy that. I think we probably may see half of that, if even that. I think maybe even 25% of that. I think there's a couple areas here where we could see about 2 to 4 inches, mostly ones and twos. But even so, this is still significant for this area. That's why we have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in effect for these regions. As we go further north, the snow totals actually lessen. To think that we would have forecasts here where we have eastern New Mexico and southwestern Texas having more snow than up in the northeast here. Even Maine doesn't even get as much snow as these guys for this storm system. It's crazy to think that that can be a thing. But we do have these little pockets right here as well, just outside of Chicago, where we could get up to about maybe an inch of snow possibly. Then over towards Michigan, we could get about another 1 to 2 inches, maybe even 1 to 3 inches. Then when we get to New York, we have these little pockets of maybe the trace, maybe an inch of snow. And then beyond that, northern Maine doesn't really look impressive either. Maybe another 2, 3 inches. Some places could see about 4 possibly. And then that's really all I got here. So this is pretty much the end of the video. This is the weekend forecast for Thanksgiving. I know a lot of you guys will be starting to travel back, so be safe in doing so. Make smart decisions. If you liked what I did in the video here, definitely drop me a like. Let me know in the comments if you're going to any sporting events, so I'll probably be watching. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm wondering if we might hit 120 subs by the end of the year. I think it's doable. We're at 113 right now, so I appreciate you guys. But yeah, that's the end of the video. This has been Tyler Metalhead Weatherman. I'll have a video up for you in the morning for the Weather Nerd 101 playlist, and then we'll talk about the storm system that Saturday night. But until then, take care.